are about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So before we begin, I just need to admit that I didn't do us women any service a few minutes ago. I didn't really represent the women very well. Kind of embarrassed myself in a room full of men. And I don't like to do that because I like to think I'm one of the guys. And no, this was a epic fail. And I want to apologize. I also want to apologize to dudes. You know, I think I'm going to take a step back, and I will be a dudette. Let you dudes do the dude thing before I start piping up again. So basically, one of our cars, the registration is due. And as you know, I'm not very good with the cars. I used to be. When I lived on my own, I changed out my own oil, and I could, test the battery. I could charge. I replaced my radio, my stereo in the car by myself. I mean, I did stuff by myself. Could put chains on. I didn't need a man. And the reason why is I was single. Maybe I'd have a boyfriend every now and then, but well, when it comes to smogging a car, I never really did that. I don't believe so, because my very first car was a clunker, and I remember it had to already have the smog check. Then I sold it for another car when I went to medical school. Then I totaled that car in an accident, and so I've never had to smog a car. If any of our vehicles needed to be smogged, my husband did it. And so today, I'm going to get the car smogged. And I didn't realize that my husband had a waiting room full of men, because he's a chiropractor and he does DOT physicals and whatever. So the door is semi-closed. I didn't think anybody was in there because, men are quiet. I don't mean to stereotype, but when you have a waiting room full of men, you don't hear anything. Whereas women, we're like, oh my God, oh, where'd you get that? Oh, I love that color on you. Oh, we're talking. So it's a quiet waiting room. You don't hear anything. So I tell my husband, I go, no, wait a second. I think they want a tip, and how do I do this? He goes, well, you just go up there and do I need to bring anything? What are you talking about? What would you bring? Because if I remember correctly, I had to bring something if I ever had to do my registration, you had to bring something to get the car smogged, like maybe your pink slip. I don't remember, because that was like in the 90s. And so my husband's already kind of looking at me like he usually does. Go, girl, okay, this is why you leave it to the men. And then I'm like, somebody said you have to tip. They're going to want a tip. And my husband looks at me like, you don't tip. And I go, well, I mean, what are you going to do? What are you going to tip? I go, I could show him my boobie. And I start to lift and recreate how I would tip. Now, fortunately, I didn't go all the way, and I start walking towards the front area, and there's a room full of men listening to all this. So, one, you don't want to be a woman who doesn't know how to smog her car. And honestly, I know you ladies are like, I've lost all PMS privileges. I have lost all woman privileges. You now have to kill all the spiders in the house. I get it. And I am. I'm gonna make this up to you, ladies. But I will kill the next spider I see. I'm not gonna call my husband to do it. But you also, as a woman, especially one like me, as a professional woman, you don't want to need to rely on your sexuality, or in my case, my lack of sexuality, to deal with a tip. That's not really what we women stand for. And so here I am trying to carry on the legacy of my mom and my grandmother and my great-grandmother and all the women in my family who were very, very strong women and helped, get women's rights and whatever. And I just blew it by admitting to a room full of men that I don't know how to smog my own car, which, by the way, that's a whole other issue. And that, I would turn to the boobies if I didn't have cash to tip. So I apologize. I think I really owe all the women an apology, as well as the men in the waiting room. But the one thing that bothers me about this, which is why I'm bringing it up, is I could do everything myself before I dated my husband. I mean, I had boyfriends and stuff, but I knew how to, like I said, I could manage my own car. I could manage my own lease. I could do things by myself. But you start getting lazy. My husband's like, well, I'll handle it. I'm like, okay, good. You do the car stuff. You do this. There's a spider. We once had a spider, and I just, cornered off the house until he came home hours later to deal with it. I used to kill my own spider. I used to not even be afraid of spiders. And the more I let him take over, the less I'm remembering and the less independent. God forbid he leaves this earth. You kidding me? I can't handle my own spiders. I can't handle my own smog. It's ridiculous. And I know a lot of you think, this is really, Daliah, you can't smog your car. I could. I am sure I just go up, to the smog place. And although I get confused on where to park because it's like one of those photo map thingies now. I have a little confused, but I'm sure I can figure it out, okay? I'm a physician. I have an MD. I could figure this out. But when you don't use it, you lose it. And I feel like there's a lot of things. My husband does a lot of the cooking. And I know how to cook. I mean, that you really can't. But I'm getting lazy. I'm letting him do that. I let him manage a lot of the finances. I have been letting him do. Now, what do? Okay, I do a lot. Trust me, I do a lot. I'm working 3 jobs. I'm managing the house, managing the kids. I do a lot. Okay, working on 2 more books. Trust me, I'm doing a lot, helping students. But, for those of you who had an independence before you got married, and you would do things and you don't do them anymore, maybe just this is your homework this week. See if you could still do it. Can I change a flat tire? I changed a flat tire once when I was younger. Now, yes, men came up to help me, but now if I had a flat tire, I'd call AAA. That's ridiculous. So I think I need to do a better job of being a little bit more independent. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH, don't go away.
Let's see, if something costs less, but people are happier with it, that sounds like something to look into, and that's MediShare. Maybe you've heard switching to MediShare to pay for healthcare can save the typical family $500 a month, and that's huge, but it's also true that people are way more satisfied after making the switch, too. The customer satisfaction rate for MediShare is double that of the typical health insurance plan. Double. MediShare works. It's been around for more than a quarter century, and members have shared more than $3 billion of each other's bills. People love having telehealth and a huge nationwide PPO network. So, yeah, you can save a ton and like it better. Imagine being happy with how you're taking care of your health care. So if you're self-employed or part of the gig economy, or you just want a plan you're happy with, you can call right now and get a price within 2 minutes. A very, very smart use of 2 minutes. Here's the number you need. 855-SHARE-40. That's 855-SHARE-40. 855-SHARE-40.
Hey guys, it's Dr. Daliah. Fantasy football season is coming, but sadly, too many of you are taking the bench while the country takes part in one of the most exciting and lucrative industries out there. Don't know how to play? Well, huddle up and listen. Paul Kalikas and I have written a fantasy football pocket guide for beginners. This book walks you through the basics and shows you how simple and lucrative joining or creating a fantasy football team can be. Read our Fantasy Football Pocket Guide for Beginners found on Amazon or follow the links on X and Facebook. That's Fantasy Football Pocket Guides for Beginners. Don't be left out.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to TotalWellness.com. Supplements made for physicians only now available to you too. TotalWellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. Daliah, 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen, and big thanks to Daniel, our producer. So there has been a lot of questions surrounding this law that Governor Newsom in California passed as it pertains to children who are questioning their gender and questioning their gender identity or maybe transitioning, and if the parents need to know or not. And this law now bans districts from requiring school staff to disclose a student's gender identity or sexual orientation to any other person without the child's permission, except with some exceptions. It also requires the State Department of Education to develop resources for families of LGBTQ plus students in grades 7 through high school. The law will take effect in January. Now, this law, on one end, I want there to be resources for kids. So I agree that there should be education materials. There should be counselors, grade 7 on up. I think that's fine. However, banning school districts from, it almost sounds like a double negative, but basically it bans school districts from requiring school staff to disclose a student's gender identity or sexual orientation to any other person without the child's permission, which includes parents. Now, why did this come out? Well, I think it was Chino Valley Unified School District where Attorney General Rob Bonta had sued Chino Valley Unified over a rule that its board approved last year, requiring school staff to notify parents if their children change their gender identification or pronouns. And then a judge halted the policy, and so now it's come out into a bill. So even though I want there to be resources and counselors, this could be very, very dangerous in terms of the parents not being aware. As I said, having had patients with gender dysphoria, they need help, they need support, and they need to not be misgendered. So if you have a child that spends most of their life at home, even though they spend a lot of hours in the day at school, now it's summertime, so they're home, and you think that child could be suicidal because that child is living in a body that they don't want. Well, then whenever you have a possibility of somebody at risk of suicide, it's all hands on deck. You want their family involved, you want family support, and you want the doctors involved. It's all hands on deck. If a school has a child who's struggling saying, I don't want to be a girl, I don't want to be a boy, or I want to be a cat, and then they go home and get misgendered because the parents weren't told, now that's hypocritical. Now are we trying to protect the child or not? Now they're saying that this protects the child from households that are unwelcoming to it. Now I get, I grew up with parents that were pretty strict. I understand how many kids do not want their parents to know things. But then are the schools also not going to notify these parents if their child is tardy? Are they also not going to notify the parents if the child failed a test? My parents got called left and right every time I cussed, or if my brother or sister didn't pass a test, or if a library book was... So what is the school allowed to call the parents on or not? Now, somebody could say, but Dr. Daliah, this is the kids don't want the parents to know. The kids don't want the parents to know that they are a cat or a dog or a person, or they're identifying as, remember there's that one school that put a litter box. There's a few schools that have done that put litter boxes for kids to use in the back because they thought they were a cat. All right, if the kid's like, but I don't want you to call my mom. How many times did I tell my school, please don't call my parents. Please don't call my parents. You cussed. You got caught smoking. I never got caught smoking, but when you do something in school or you're failing or you're struggling, yes, the school is going to call. I begged the school to not call my mom when I was failing my eye test. I didn't want glasses. I did not want to be a kid with glasses. And I was 11 years old. The school nurse, because the teacher saw me squint, so I got sent to the school nurse. The school nurse tested my vision, and I was horrified that I was now going to be identified as a kid with glasses. And I'm like, don't call my mom. Don't call my mom. So I understand that gender dysphoria is a lot more challenging than that. But I also understand that because gender dysphoria is so challenging and these people are at so much risk of suicide and depression and mental health, that keeping family members away might not be the most ideal. Okay, now, they said sexual orientation. So let's say you have a student who identifies or does you could have a sexual orientation that has nothing to do with your identity and has sex and has unprotected sex and now is at risk for HIV. Even though heterosexual individuals could also be at risk. And let's say the child is feeling ill and parents don't know. They go to the doctor. Doctor's like, is there anything I need to know about? No, not having sex. All good. Don't you think the parents need to know in case there needs to be some testing? Now, is it on the school to tell parents that their child is having sexual intercourse? If the kid did it on class, yeah, your child had sex on campus. School gets called. Your child failed a test. Your child is struggling in mathematics. So we get the parents involved with everything else. What does that mean if we have children whose only guidance and only nurturing and support when they are going through something as heavy as gender dysphoria is not their blood, not their family? Now, you know how many children or adults said, I didn't think my parents would understand that I was gay or not. And people would tell me, and I'm like, how did it go? Well, one family member was awesome. And people would tell me, oh, I could talk to so-and-so, but I couldn't talk to my dad, or I couldn't talk to my mom, or I couldn't talk to my mom, or I couldn't talk to my dad, or whatever. And they would explain that. And so, kids understand which family members might be easy to talk to and not. But also, sometimes they're surprised. My family was okay with it, they'd say. You're assuming that, in fact, I heard people say that these kids are going to be killed by their parents, that their parents are going to murder them. I don't know how many times that's happened. We've seen parents murder their kids. I don't know if all of those cases were because of gender identity. But to assume that a child who is struggling needs to completely keep the parents out of the loop because their parents are going to kill them, don't you think we want to check on that family? Because if the parents are going to be doing that, if that's the home that child is living in, there should be a site visit. And so just this blanket thing going, if the kid says, don't call my mom, don't call my mom, is that also going to extend to academics? Is it also going to extend to behavioral issues? Drugs. If you have a child that identifies as a cocaine user, does the school, are they not allowed to call the parents? There could be medical ramifications. These are things, it's interesting. We have this talk on abortion. And now there's all this debate if the feds need to be involved or the feds don't need to be involved. I want the government out and it's just between the patient and the doctor. But people say if you don't have access, people will do the hanger abortion and hurt themselves and could kill themselves trying to perform their own abortion. Well, then the question I have is, if you have a child who's struggling with the identity they have, and their parents are not assisting them from a medical support, are they going to go online and buy scam pills? I mean, if we want, teenagers and people to have access to abortion resources, don't we want kids to have access to gender affirming care resources? And a lot of times that'll involve the parents and their health insurance. And then, so I think we really need to take a step back and also figure out why these kids could be doing that. Maybe it's because there's a stepdad or mom who's assaulting them. We need to get to the bottom of it and include the parents. 1-877 Dr. Daliah. Dr. Daliah here. Are you tired, burned out, gaining weight, succumbing to the daily pressures of life? Well, how's your dopamine doing? How you feel right now, how you'll feel an hour from now, and how you'll feel next week is completely reliant on your dopamine. Our daily motivation and willingness to push through challenges depends on the intricate chemical process dopamine provides. Christian Kalikas and I created Deploying Dopamine, a book that tells you what dopamine is, when it dysfunctions, and how to successfully deploy it when needed. Find Deploying Dopamine on Amazon today. Check it out.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems. For example,
diesel fuel cetane levels.
The cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com.
Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Daliah, 1-877 DOCDALI. So a question I get, and I've even asked it too, is what was the extent of the damage of Donald Trump's ear? With my understanding and in my experience, there would be surgery needed for reconstruction of it. And seeing Trump at the Republican National Convention with the bandage on his ear was very reassuring to the crowd. That was, he's one tough cookie. After going through all that and being able to sit through a convention, and you see he looked a little tired. Some people said, is he bored? I think he just went through a lot. He went through a lot. Not to mention, he's probably in pain. That ear, it blew off, I think, a third of his ear, which, oh my gosh, it could have been so much worse. If you saw the images and the video imaging of the bullet and the trajectory of the bullet and how it would have pierced the skull and killed him instantly. And it was by the luck of God and the grace of God that he had turned his head in a position that allowed it to just nip the ear. An absolute miracle. God was there that day. I'm still just, wow. But then, when you see him a day or two later with the bandage over his ear, obviously, the questions are so what happened to the ear? I mean, from what I could see from the mechanism of injury and from what I could see the day of, he lost cartilage. And when you lose cartilage of the ear, that could be very, very dangerous because the one infection, it's not very easy to just, stitch that up. Once you have a depth, like if you have an open fracture where you break your leg or you break a leg, but you also break the skin. And then, the risk of infection is so high that a cartilage injury to the ear is can put you at risk for, a very severe infection, loss of the outer ear, and more. So, how much of it? I think we're hearing from Trump's team that he lost the top third of his ear. The bullet pierced it and ripped through his skin. Now, looking at the rest of his scalp and his hair, Looks like it just hit the ear. I got to tell you, this is an argument for having ears that stick out. You know, some of you have ears that look like satellite dishes where they kind of... Trump's ears aren't usually like that, but there's definitely an advantage to have that ear stick out and be able to. And maybe that's also why some of the shape of the ear is designed to hollow sounds, to be able to grab and bring sounds down into the ear. But you also wonder if there's a protective mechanism by having these appendages stick out like they do. Well, it sure saved Trump's life. And so when you have part of the ear ripped off, the top third, I'm assuming if he lost the top third of his ear, cartilage is missing. That's just, if you feel the top of your ear, that firm part, yeah. So my guess is they would have to clean it out. It would be a surgery. It would be an ear reconstruction. Some people have talked about how he needs to get that done right away. My guess is what's probably happening right now is he's on some pretty, shall we say, strong antibiotics. He had probably extensive cleaning, numbing, cleaning. I don't know if he actually had a surgical procedure in the hospital. He was at the hospital for, was it roughly 6 hours? So at that time, most likely they did do some work. If an ear, nose, and throat doctor was there and was able to come down, then there's a chance he could have, already had it. I don't think so. I think what they might have done is partial treatment, where they closed it up to prevent infection. They cleaned it out really, really well, gave him antibiotics, and then as it heals, they'll decide what needs to be done from a cosmetic standpoint. One plastic surgeon said he would need a helical advancement flap, which could cost about $10,000 and anywhere from 1 to 2 hours to complete. I don't think we're really getting a lot of detail on that, but it for an ear, it is a significant injury to the ear. I'm just blown away. You see the rest of his scalp look fine. It just, how it hit that and didn't go through to the skull, just absolute miracle. But if the procedure was done, I believe they can also do it under local. They could do it under general anesthesia or local, and then do certain closures, wedge closures, skin flap. If he doesn't have enough skin, they would have to take it from another body part. Now, people have asked, what about his hearing? So even though it's an outer ear injury, the bullet sound and the pressure that he incurred could have caused barotrauma. Absolutely. I don't know if that's where he's at with that. I think everybody's been kind of moving on. I don't think the Trump team is going to go into too much detail of his poor ear, because somebody died. He was almost killed. We had 2 people in critical condition who had been treated in the hospital, and I believe are currently getting treatment. So I think they're just going to say, yeah, he hurt his ear's fine. And it's interesting because with Biden, we are all up in his medical records going because of the way he acts and his mentation and his cognitive abilities, and we want to know, well, you had a cold during the debate. Was it COVID? Did a doctor look at you? Did it? With Trump, it seems like people are going, yeah, he's good. He survived an assassination attempt. Even if he had a bullet in his body somewhere, he's walking, he's good, he's fine. Do I think he's going to change? Do I see a change? We need to be very, very careful judging what, shall we say, what performance he's going to have based on it's only been 72 hours since the assassination attempt. You also are not going to, from a PR standpoint, want to be looking like you're running around and jumping around and ha ha, I dodged a bullet. You're not going to want to do that. And so whether it's him really feeling that way or his PR team telling him to, he looks solemn. He looks appreciative. He looks grateful. He looks sad because people lost their life. The fire chief that lost his life, and then the two individuals who are now struggling with medical issues after that. Not to mention the trauma that people have from seeing the shooting. And so, even though it's a happy moment knowing he survived that, it's very scary. Also, it's a big reality check. Now we're hearing that Iran was plotting to assassinate him. I'm sure, as president, there was multiple plans that sadly are in the works, and so you wonder, was Biden safe? Was Obama safe? Sadly, when you're president, you're behind a bullseye, and they're in the crosshairs, and so maybe he had known that there were threats, and now this got real, and it was so real that a millimeter off could have, or a split second could have changed whether he would be alive or not. So yeah, I think he's going to be more solemn. I think he's going to be tired. I think he's in pain. That injury hurts. He's going to be in pain. He's going to be angry. He's also going to be very timid. I don't want to say timid, but he's going to be very concerned about future protection, as many people are questioning what the hell happened, and can he ever trust, Secret Service to do what they need to.
Considered by most, optimized curcumin is one of the few bioavailable and highly absorbable curcumin products on the market. Hi, I'm Dr. Mitch. Since most chronic diseases have inflammation, our optimized curcumin seems to be a perfect addition to any nutritional program. It makes sense to me that preventing or reducing inflammation is a key component to our overall health. The Mayo Clinic found that curcumin can decrease swelling and inflammation, has antioxidant properties, and research suggests that curcumin can prevent cancer, or at least slow the spread of cancer, and in many instances make chemotherapy more effective. It protects our healthy cells even from radiation. TotalWellness.com, where we help you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
Self-reliance. It's not a phrase we hear much in our culture these days. It might conjure up images of pioneers, the West, rifles, strapping men, and strong women. But what does it mean for us in today's world? The New American Magazine has just released its latest collector's edition, Self-Reliance, Foundation of Freedom. In it, the New American authors outline the necessity of self-reliance for a free people, tips for self-reliant living, and the importance of not giving up hope. This unique edition includes articles on the self-sufficiency of the founders, preparing for a worst-case scenario, firearms, financial self-reliance, the importance of community, and many other topics by expert writers. Now, for a limited time, the New American is offering a bundle of 3 collector's editions: Self-Reliance, The Great Reset, and Trump World for just $19.95. Available at shopjbs.org. Visit shopjbs.org today.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So this headline caught my eye. Costco is rolling out emergency food kits that can keep you going for 11 years as World War III fears grow. This is being written by the Daily Mail. And we talk about prepping on the show a lot. I'm a little bit of a prepper. When you grow up poor and then you get something and then you lose it, you kind of want to hold on to things so you don't lose them again. My father gambled. So I got to see us not have something, then get something and lose it. And the chronic, repeated losses made me a little bit of, you know what? I'm going to need this later. So we're going to keep it. And then in terms of, is there going to be an emergency? Is there going to be a power outage? Is there going to be a World War III? Is there going to be, I think we all need to have some sort of preparation for power outages, for natural disasters, for wildfires, for hurricanes. And sadly, many of us are unprepared. Look at how unprepared we are when we get attacked by a wild animal and we don't have a knife on us. Or we're scuba diving or snorkeling and a shark comes up and we don't have a weapon on us. So I do think we need to, understand that just because things are really nice right now and we're in an ambient temperature room and we have some change in our wallets where we could go and grab a burger at McDonald's if we're hungry, we should be prepared in case the poop hits the fan. And one thing I think we can agree on is the poop will eventually hit the fan. I think we've seen enough writing on the wall. So Daily Mail is reporting that Costco is selling emergency food and drink survival kits that have a shelf life of 25 years. The kits are aimed at Americans wanting to stock up in case of natural disasters or World War III. They're called ReadyWise buckets. They contain 150 servings of pasta Alfredo chicken pot pie. See, I'm not a chicken pot pie fan. Okay, maybe some Swedish meatballs or some Salisbury steak, but I'm not. No. They cost $79.99 after a $20 discount. And Costco is apparently selling these kits by the pallet. The ReadyWise pallet has 5,400 servings. They're also selling not only small kits, but pallet kits. 5,400 servings for $2,400 or $2,500 after a $500 discount. Not sure how to get the discounts. Based on one serving a day of the food items, one of these pallets could basically allow your pallet to last 11 years. Each bucket has 80 entrees and sides, 30 breakfasts, and 40 drinks. Water must be added to turn the dried foods into meals. The pallet costs 36 of the buckets, contains 36 of the buckets, so 2,880 mains and sides, 1,080 breakfasts, and 1,440 drinks. I know some of you are going, do the drinks include some whiskey? No, there's no scotch or whiskey. My guess is these are non-alcoholic drinks. I know Costco sells wine. I don't think there's going to be wine in that. And so, when you look at these things, it's they're the Costco Apocalypse dinner kits. And, would you buy it? I don't know if I would buy it's about $2,500. Here's the thing. We have an RV just in case power's out or we need to leave or evacuate because of a fire or something. We could throw the kids, the pets, if there's room, my mom. Okay, guys, mom. And, the pets. I almost said the pets before the kids. Did you know? I had to catch myself there. Hubby, But the idea that when you need to fly or bounce, you need to go. And you need to have something you could grab and go. I love the idea of having food. We have some NASA foods and things like that you could add water to. We also have, filtering. If you're going to prepare, you also want to make sure you have a means to use natural water and to be able to, help absorb water from rain or take stream water or, ocean water and figure out how to make it potable. There's a lot of things you need to think about. You need to have a weapon. You need to have a means to start a fire. You need to have your medications. You need to have hygienic type things. You need to have sunscreen. You need to have, you could use mud, but not a lot of people want to put mud on their lips. And, there's batteries and ways to communicate with people, ham radio, radio with batteries, so you can try to pick up signals and hear what's going on. But I like the idea of having food ready to go. It's a lot of money. I've been tricked in thinking something is going to last longer than it does, and it doesn't. I've also been tricked where I've bought products that were food products, and when you open them up, they were stale. So if these are these are what they say they are, I think it could be good. I don't want to do a commercial for them because $2,500 is a lot of money, but that is one less thing to worry about. I'm going to look at these, and I'm going to look at the nutritional value, and because you need to have vegetables, you need to have your 3 squares a day, you need to have proper calories, but also we got to be careful because some of these foods are very high in sodium, very high in fat. I mean, if you need to survive, you need to survive. But I would also make sure your emergency kit has a fishing rod, right? Has a bow. It has a means where you could also do some hunting. I think our kids are very underprepared. I think all children during school, I told you how school should be, where the morning part of the day are your core classes and the afternoon is all the practical learning and the trades and all the industries. So by the time you're 16 years old, you kind of know what you want to do in life. And then year 17, or when you're 17 and 18 is your associate's degree. So basically by the time everybody's 18, they all have their free college or their trade certificate Yeah, but the afternoon, in addition to learning about the trades and learning all the different industries throughout your afternoons, is also your practical living. Do you know how to balance a checkbook? Do you know how to exercise? Do you know self-defense? Do you know first aid? Do you know how to hunt? Do you know how to fish? I was bringing this up once. And when I said, and kids need to know how to hunt, and I heard a woman, did I say something wrong? If your child is stuck out there, remember there was that family where the older sister kept the other kids alive? If your kids are stranded, don't we want them to know what to eat? I grew up, I went to 12 schools, but when my folks moved back and forth, we were in Maricopa County for a good part of my childhood, and they had desert survival courses. So that if you were ever stuck in the desert, you know which plants to drink, what to eat, how to get help. Are we doing desert survival classes anymore? Are we doing, what to do when you see a bear? You can't just read about it in a textbook. Now, that's what I miss about camps and, Cub Scouts and things like that, because they taught you how to, light a fire. You're not always going to have a Bic lighter on you. So these are things that kids need to know how to do. Of course, after a certain age. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH. Don't go away.
Did you know that healthy arteries make a gas? Yes, actually 3 known gases. Hi, I'm Dr. Mitch, and nitric oxide is a gas that's readily made all day long to keep our arteries open by relaxing the blood vessel walls. By doing this, our circulation is increased, bringing blood, oxygen, and nutrients to every part of your body. Both age and poor diet can lead to a loss of this precious gas, and in turn, blood pressure can go up, energy can go down, and you can get tingling in your hands and feet. Well, our product, Ultimate Nitric Oxide, can easily help fix this lack of nitric oxide. Go to TotalWellness.com. That's TotalWellness.com, where we are helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.